We will then continue with two presentations from UNDP. As you already heard, very close partner to the European delegation. And the first one will be given by Mr. Radovan Nikčević, as I have here employed in the United Nations Development Program as a manager of the project EU for the Green Agenda in Serbia. Since it's strictly, directly, very close connected to the title of the conference, I will ask Mr. Nikčević to tell us more about his experience here with the project in Serbia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, dear organizing committee, dear colleagues, dear friends, enthusiasts. First of all, thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity to speak today at this scientific conference. It is really a great pleasure to be here to discuss with you and to present some of the activities we in UNDP are conducting here and which actually help our economy and society to go through this green transition. I will start from the also European Green Deal. Actually, Antoine already mentioned it. And just like to make one step back and to remind us all on this time when the European Green Deal was adopted. Actually, this is a kind of comprehensive European strategy of economic and social development which foresees the green transition. I would like to emphasize this European aspect, because even it is adopted by the European Commission, it does not concern only EU member states, but its intention is to cover the entire European continent. And that is the reason why the Western Balkan is included in the European Green Deal, and that is the reason why European Green Deal envisaged development of the Green Agenda for the Western Balkans. So, as Antoine already mentioned, the Green Agenda, actually, I will discover you one secret. There is no single document, there is no single strategy titled the Green Agenda for the Western Balkans. This document does not exist, believe it or not. But there are three other documents, Holy Trinity. First of all is the guidelines for the implementation of the Green Agenda prepared by the European Commission, by DG NEAR, and adopted together with the European Economic and Investment Plan for the Western Balkans. Then the second document is the Sofia Declaration, which is adopted maybe 1 month later. And it is a political declaration through which all Western Balkan economies committed to transpose the objectives of the European Green Deal international policy and legal framework. And the third document which is mentioned today is, of course, Action Plan adopted in Slovenia 1 year after the adoption, after the Sofia Declaration, and which provides a clear path for this urgently needed green transition through which we all have to go through. What I would like to emphasize regarding the Green Deal and the Green Agenda, what is very important, apart from this European perspective, is cross-sectoral cooperation, strengthening links and ties between various sectors. And this is something, some novelty which is introduced by the European Green Deal and the Green Agenda. So it is not anymore about negotiation chapter 27, as State Secretary also Dokic today mentioned. It goes far, far beyond the chapter 27. It includes all other sectors, primarily talking about energy sector, transport sector, but through circular economy also it includes every single branch of economy, every single industry sector, and so on. So with the green agenda, all sectors of economy are covered. And the key requirement of the green agenda, of such strategy, is to really, in developing national policies, in developing legal framework, it is required that to mainstream environmental protection and climate aspects, requirements, standards, principles and objectives into development of all other policies in one country. And that's what's happened, and that's what actually Professor Marina Ilić mentioned this morning, talking about the Green Agenda strategy in Serbia, which is in process of development and which is supported through our project. So mainstreaming of environmental and climate principles is the key in this green transition. I think it is mentioned today that Green Agenda for the Western Balkans has 5 components. Decarbonization is one of the key components, and it is related to Paris Climate Agreement objectives. It is an attempt somehow to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and three sectors are key in this part. First of all, climate action, which includes climate mitigation, but also adaptation to climate change. And besides climate area, transport and energy sectors are recognized as the key to somehow to be transformed in the next couple of decades. Then the second pillar is circular economy. It is not only about waste management, not only about recycling, reuse, extending of products, use of products, but it is also how can we design new policies in order to reduce consumption of limited resources, and how we can create a market for secondary raw materials in our region. Then the third pillar is fight against pollution, talking about water, soil, and air, and I think no need to elaborate more on this. We are all aware how this is important for our survival on this planet in the future. Biodiversity is the fourth pillar. The Western Balkan region is particularly rich in biodiversity, and protection and restoration of biodiversity and habitats is also crucial for our existence, because we use this provides our ecosystem. Actually, ecosystem services enable us to eat, to breathe, to drink clean water, and so on and so on. And the fifth pillar is agriculture, which should deal in the future not only with production of nutritious and healthy food, but also which idea of this pillar is to address all stages in food production. So meaning from planting foods, then from harvesting, transportation, distribution, including food waste, which has to be reduced in the future. So having in mind this setup and this structure of the Green Agenda for the Western Balkan, I would like to present the project I'm working on. So this is EU for Green Agenda, as Antoine already mentioned. And the structure of this project mirrors the structure of the Green Agenda for the Western Balkans. But before I say a couple of words about the project, I would like to say that somehow even during the preparation of the Sofia Declaration and its action plan, Serbia, somehow, I really have to be honest, not because I'm from Serbia, but at that time Serbia showed initiative and somehow wanted to be a regional leader. Serbia started as the first economy in the Western Balkans with development of its own national Green Agenda action plan. Also, Serbia established a Green Agenda sectoral working group, which is still in place. And based on these initiatives and according to as the need is recognized and with the support of the European Commission, somehow the EU for Green Agenda in Serbia project was designed. The initial support for the project implementation is provided by the European Commission in the amount of 8 million euros. But after the implementation started in January last year, additional donors came and provided additional funds, like the government of Switzerland, the government of Sweden, also government of Serbia contributed. So in total, now we have almost $18 million to somehow enable, support, accelerate this green transition in our country. What are we doing here in Serbia? The project has, first of all, I would like to say that there are almost 20 people working on this project. And with 18 millions for next couple of years, I think we can do a lot. Of course, in comparison, what is needed to really ensure full green transition and to ensure climate neutrality by mid-century is not enough. But of course, we strongly believe that this will, as an initial stage, it is really enough to start the process and somehow inspire all others to follow the same path in Serbia. So the project is divided in 3 key components. First component is developing and improving strategic and legal framework in our country, which will enable green transition. And as Professor Ilić today said, one of the key activity in this pillar is developing of green agenda strategy. But also besides this, the project is supporting development of various legal acts, bylaws, particularly in the area of environmental protection, but also in the energy sector, in the sector of agriculture. And through this support, we would like somehow to create an enabling environment for green transition. The second important part of the project is what also Antoine already mentioned, is support to concrete innovative projects, whether in private sector, also in public sector, through challenge calls. These challenge calls are some unique tool developed in UNDP. These are kind of public calls through which we invite various companies to apply with innovative projects, to apply for technical support, but also for financial support, which the project, thanks to our donors, of course, provides to various companies. In previous year, we launched 4 such calls in 4 pillars of the green agenda, and out of 140 applications, we provided technical support for 83 companies, and at the end, we identified 16 let's say, mature projects which with high environmental but also social and economic benefits, which we supported with almost $800,000 in 2022. This process continues, and in February this year we launched another challenge call which will be open till the end of the project. And we already had one cutoff and already identified almost 50 companies which now goes in this process of acceleration, through which they will receive technical support, and hopefully at the end of this process we will have additional projects to be supported. At the end, I would like to say that our project will last till end of 2026, and I think in next 4 years we will be able to do more. And just to conclude what Antoine said about the EU policy, which is the best in the world, I will agree. And I would also like to add that the intention of the European Green Deal is to inspire others, to encourage others to follow the same path towards the climate neutrality as the overarching goal for us by mid-century. So I will stop here. I would like to thank you for your attention, and if there is a question, I'm ready to answer now or during the next break. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm very glad to hear that at least at some point, sometimes Serbia is taking the leading role. That's very good to hear. But since this is the conference dedicated to the whole Western Balkan, I would like to invite Mr. Zoran Skenderija now to hear the experience from the same organization, but experience from Bosnia and Herzegovina. So we can compare the situation and we can learn more about the situation in the Western Balkans. Please.
Thank you so much. Izvinite, samo za prebacivanje, to je ovdje.
Da, samo na sljedeći.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. And, you know, I just have to say that I'm so pleased, you know, that I can address today the friends and colleagues. You know, before I start my presentation, I just wanted to mention something. Last year, we, along with the EU, of course, we organized an amazing event in Bosnia and Herzegovina. It was called Climate Action Week. We had like 7 days of different activities. And my favorite was when we organized 5 universities in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where we had a chance to chat with students dealing with environmental issues about, you know, how they see, you know, the future and what would they change. And I'm so happy that you guys organize, you know, this event. It's very important to engage young people, the students, you know, because it will be, you know, part of their, you know, heritage. So, you know, my name is Zoran Skenderija. I'm, you know, coming from UNDP Bosnia and Herzegovina. I'm the project manager. I'm responsible, let's say, for the Sofia Declaration on certain. And, you know, I would like to give you just a couple of the inputs, you know, what we do, what's the state of the play, you know, and how UNDP is helping institutions in Bosnia and Herzegovina to succeed in this green agenda. UNDP has adopted its new strategy plan for 2022-2025 that elevates UNDP aspirations to help achieve the SDGs and leverage strategic innovations and portfolio concept for development change at scale. As a growing body of practice, UNDP globally is embracing the portfolio approach to develop new policies, offers, and capabilities of the UNDP based on a system transformation logic, while nurturing interest, engagement for the governments and donors to invest in this new logic. At the present, there are no development stakeholders in Bosnia and Herzegovina who support transitions toward decarbonization in country at a system problem. Oops. And we see a strategic opportunity. We see in terms of the conversation, strategic opportunity for UNDP of Bosnia and Herzegovina to capitalize on its strong expertise in areas of economic development, climate action, governance, and design strategic offer that will support renewal and of the economic model of the country towards a low carbon economy. Against this background and based on the development needs of Bosnia and Herzegovina, UNDP in Bosnia and Herzegovina is interested to explore how to apply the portfolio approach for more strategic, relevant, coherent development offer in the area of the decarbonization, establishment of sustainable financial instruments as a lever to support government, private sector, and society to reorient the economic model towards sustainability. In July 2022, UNDP in Bosnia and Herzegovina joined the cohort of UNDP country offices globally that will apply in practice the portfolio and system thinking framework to advance its strategic development offer and enhance its system transformations capabilities. I will not go through all these 5 pillars that a colleague of mine already mentioned, you know, and I went briefly through them. We have been asked by the Council of the Ministers of Bosnia and Herzegovina to work and, let's say, to unpack Sofia Declaration, you know, that unpack action plan that Antoine mentioned, you know, and basically the action, the roadmap, the idea of the roadmap is to identify all the institutions, all the key stakeholders, having in mind the complexity of political structure of Bosnia and Herzegovina, you know, all the key players, you know, what they need to do, what's the time frame, was the laws, was the bylaws, you know, and how we shall achieve that. So basically, you know, we're working for almost for more than a year on that. And I hope by the end of this year, we shall have the document ready. We call it roadmap. And the whole idea is to have this roadmap to become official, to become, let's say, some kind of guidance for the institutions in all levels of Bosnia and Herzegovina. That's in Sarajevo, we have like 5 different levels of the governing bodies. So basically, it's really massive. It's really huge. So they need to know, you know, who's doing what. It's very important. So I'll come back later on our, let's say, biggest challenges, decarbonization. But you know, I will skip it for the moment. So basically, about 730 million were committed to support the implementation of the Green Agenda bilateral regional policies 2021, including technical assistance, of course, from the EU, and this was investments in energy efficiency, renewables, transition from coal investments, and environmental management. And of course, most of you know that this is the biggest challenge for us, transition from the coal in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Of course, further investments and grants under the Western Balkans investment framework will support the green transition, together with the recent energy support package. EC based on EU Green Deal, and recovery plan for Europe, and this is investing 30%, let's say, of the budget climate-related programs, project initiatives, and it's just one, evidence that the EU is really, dedicated, committed, to the region, to the Bosnia and Herzegovina, of course, and all these activities are also planned, for the countries that that does not belong to the EU, and in order to successfully plan short-term, and long-term activities of this round, it is necessary to have, realistic picture of the state of climate change in each country as they spill over into the entire region, and everything that's happening in Bosnia and Herzegovina, sometimes, it takes much more time, than, in other neighboring countries. But, we are trying to reach the point. Of course, I just have to mention that on the end of the last year, we organized, let's say, the first regional, Western Balkan regional event in Egman Mountain, where we had, it was like two-day conference, where we had really, key stakeholders from the region, institutions, representatives, starting talking about, how can we together, become the part of this? How can we solve the issues of the action plan, that is ahead of us? So basically, I think this will continue to happen, and the events that we organized last week, it will happen at similar scale by the end of this year as well. So this is, the ambitions of the European Green Deal will not be achieved, of course, by acting only within the boundaries of EU, and the EU must influence, and it is influencing, all let's say the institutions in the region by, by its expertise, of course, financial resources, and very important, the transfer of knowledge, on the climate change adaptation in European neighboring countries is considered crucial in the early stages of the planning and implementing concrete measures. I just, if you allow me just a couple more minutes, I just want to say this is, something that's, really, it is really biggest, challenge, and risk, for Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's decarbonization, and we're really trying to help institutions to use our, expertise, our knowledge, to overcome, all these things that will be ahead of them, in turn on the process of decarbonization. So, as I said, it is the biggest challenge, and because it's a huge portion of electricity, comes from the coal-fired power plants. This is supported by data that thermal power plants produce about 64% of the electricity. Hydropower plants about 33%, and small plants, power plants about 3%. Mines sell almost 94% of their production to thermal power plants for electricity production, but only 60% is intended for the commercial sale. So this means, that we really have ahead of us a massive and huge work to do. So economic model is not sustainable in the long run, since thermal power plants have been identified as the biggest polluters, and this is necessary to increase the share of electricity production from renewable sources while reducing the share of thermal power plant production. What can be seen is from the Bosnia and Herzegovina energy strategy framework until 2035. The energy strategy at the entity level is that objectives from the Sofia Declaration. In the first place, programs from the coal phase out increase the renewables energy sources, but also other indicators are not incorporated. Adopting actions within the decarbonization pillar of Sofia Declaration represents a huge opportunity for economy, society, and environment in Bosnia and Herzegovina. These actions will lay the ground for transformation at scale and entire society by making the economy more competitive and reducing system inequality. Adoption of the actions will also bring the country much closer to accession to the European Union and to prevent the localization of polluting industries into the country. Adopting a number of climate actions will also align Bosnia and Herzegovina to a much bigger extent to the efforts required under the Paris Agreement. Adoption of actions under Pillar will also lay the ground for the long-term transformation of the country from home to a big number of polluting industry. Preparation for climate adaptation strategy requires changes in the existing regulations. It is necessary to review and revise all relevant legislation to support progressive decarbonization of the energy sector. And, from my point of view, in my experience, changing the laws, the bylaws, regulations, it's maybe one of the hardest jobs in Bosnia and Herzegovina because it's political, complexity. But it's moving. To make transition, Bosnia and Herzegovina need to define legally binding objectives with timelines and pathways while ensuring regulatory and financial mechanisms and capacities for implementation. Alignment of the legislation with the acquis is complex task, as it enforces extensive and substantial changes and comprehensive reform of the energy sector. It is also necessary to train the competent institutions, and part of my project actually is doing that. We have a lot of trainings, we have a lot of educations, the seminars that holding, for the key stakeholders in Bosnia, in Herzegovina, just to enhance them, to be ready, for what's coming. The segment is particularly sensitive in Bosnia and Herzegovina, given the complexity, as I said, political, institutional, and social risks. Transposition of implementation of the acquis in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and this has not been carried out at prescribed pace even now. In the context of strategic and operational activities and in-depth recording on the harmonization and legislation at the entity level, with the level of Bosnia and Herzegovina and with the acquis communautaire of the European Union is proposed in the forthcoming period. These activities are necessary for development of actions plan, for the quality implementation, further harmonization of legislation. Just to mention that Bosnia and Herzegovina has, recognized the importance of speeding up activities, that's for sure, in transforming the energy sector. A number of events, roundtables, study analyses, expert debates, conferences, are taking place. I just want to also to mention a couple of months ago, there was a really massive, it was called Balkan Solar Summit, organized in Banja Luka in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and it's going to happen again. It's a couple of the hundreds, people came, and these things are, let's say when it comes to the awareness campaign, this is a great chance, to tell public, what is ahead of us, and of course, Bosnia and Herzegovina, UNDP Bosnia and Herzegovina will remain, reliable strategic partner, of the institutions, all level institutions in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we shall do our best, to have them, to promote, green agenda, to promote Sofia Declaration, to see, just the benefits of it. And I know that it's a hard job ahead of, institutions, but I'm pretty much sure that we should succeed in that. So once again, I'm so happy that I'm here. Thank you very much once again for the invitation, and I hope to see you sometimes again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Even though we very often speak about the Western Balkan as a region with countries with a lot of similarities, it's obvious that each and every country has his own difficulties, obstacles that has to overcome, and challenges are sometimes pretty much different in the different countries. Of course, it doesn't mean that we cannot, that we will not communicate, that we will not cooperate, and that we will not share the knowledge and experience. Totally opposite, we will do it, and I'm pretty much sure that for some of the next events, we will be your guests.